Well, we're going to end today with the city of Oklahoma City. It started as an overnight boomtown in 1889, and it mirrors that spirit today. Physically, one of the largest cities in the country, it surrounds each of our other cities, creating a thriving metropolitan region where we can all prosper. Northwest Oklahoma City, the areas that we are here representing, is represented by 4 of the city's 8 council members. Speaking on behalf of Oklahoma City, we're pleased to have our mayor, Mayor David Holt. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. When you started my introduction in 1889, I was like, we do not have time for this entire history. No, it's thank you for having me, and it's always good to be with you all. I feel like home when I come here to Northwest Chamber, and if I ever come here and Jill's not here to greet me, I just don't know what I'm going to do. But we go way back, and the partnership I have with the folks that you've heard from today is awesome. And I'll certainly echo, I mean, everybody deserves a lot of credit, but Bruce nearing retirement and the really iconic record of service that you've had in the village is definitely something that we're all grateful for, all of us, even the residents of the communities that surround you. Yeah, let's hear it for Bruce again. And I mean, I am much closer to the other city hall, all of the other city halls referenced here today, than my own. So, I mean, where I live. So, I mean, it is definitely, we're all very intertwined, and you know, I wouldn't do my grocery shopping in another community, but I definitely go to your Dunkin' Donuts on a regular basis, Bruce, because it's the closest one to my house. In fact, I was there this morning. So, so we're definitely very supportive of each other, and the pandemic was a great reflection of that. And I know I said that here before, but it's worth repeating that every time I would walk off the stage after having addressed the community in those very dramatic times, that my foot wouldn't even hit the last step before Mayor Mickley had texted me and to say, "We're behind you, Mayor. Whatever you're doing, we're doing in War Acres." So that was very appreciated, and I've said it in other forums, and I don't have the data at my fingertips today, but the rate of death from COVID-19 was significantly less in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area than it was around the state of Oklahoma, and even a little less than the national average, and it's because we did things, I think, the right way. So anyways, now that is in many ways to most of us a distant memory, and you've heard a lot of good news, and we're in the same spot in Oklahoma City. You know, when I took office only 4 years ago, we were the 27th largest city, and now we're the 20th. And that's, I always consider, you know, I recognize the challenges that population growth brings, but you wouldn't have it any other way, because if you're building a city that people want to live in, then they move there. If you don't want people to move there, then you build a crappy city. And we tried that in the 80s, and nobody seems to want to try that again. So we're going to celebrate population growth because it's a validation of all that we've accomplished. And so along with that population growth, we see fantastic economic indicators. I mean, you know, we've had historically low unemployment. I mean, at one point in the last year, it was below 2%. Now it's a little higher, but I think the employers seem to like that. There seems to be more of a sweet spot. You know, people don't like it being too low because it makes it almost impossible to fill any vacancy. But it's still historically low and has been now for well over a year, and that's good news. And then our sales tax receipts. And I get the, you know, I find very interesting, I still get the Bethany Tribune, and every month they put everybody's sales tax receipts and arrows up and down. I'm sure many of you get that same newspaper, and I always take a picture and send it to our city manager because it's just a really well done graphic, and they do it reliably every month. And it seems like everybody's arrows go up every month, and certainly ours have. Just our most recent sales tax check, we get them on a monthly basis, was up about 10% from last year. And you know, obviously inflation is some of that, but it is not all of it. And that check a year ago was 10% above the check the previous year. So, you know, the growth has been tremendous. It's allowed us to, you know, to continue to provide the services that people rely upon. It allowed us recently to add another $100 million into the MAPS 4 budget to give everybody about a 10% bump, which they needed to deal with the inflationary costs in their construction budgets. But everything is really good, and you expect the mayor to say that, but generally, the data supports it. And being the 20th largest city and having sort of the buzz that we do now, we obviously have challenges that come with that, but we are getting so many opportunities. I was just talking to our economic development folks today, and at the city level, we kind of work, it's really a triangle. We've got the city staff, we've got the Alliance for Economic Development, and we've got the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, and they all kind of work together to pursue the many leads that you get. I mean, obviously, on the one hand, we're trying to build our homegrown companies, but on the other hand, we have always historically chased the opportunities for placement that are out there. And they're saying that they've just never seen as many, inquiries as we have today. And they're putting out offers with our incentive program all the time. And it's just at a historic high. And what I tell people in this community is, as far as it feels like we have come, and any of us who've lived here since the 90s or 80s, we certainly can see that amazing progress. It really is just now finally kind of ripening. It's really just kind of reaching the point now where the rest of the country really pays attention. And when you get into the top 25 and you get into the top 20 cities, you just show up on lists that you were never on before. And so, again, so much change between 1993, the initial, the date of the original passage of maps, to today. But I'm telling you, you will not recognize this city, 25 more years. You probably won't even recognize it 10 more years. And there'll be challenges that come with that, obviously, keeping up with infrastructure, keeping up with growth. But it's also presenting a whole lot of really cool opportunities. I know we're running short on time, but I want to just jump through 2 or 3 quick updates. And I know we definitely don't have time for questions, but you can always find me, and I'm always happy to respond if you have something specific you want to reach out on. But a few top-line things. Obviously, MAPS is long been, even though it's only on average about 10% of our city's annual budget, it is, kind of the cherry on top that has changed things around here. And we're nearing the end of MAPS 3. We just opened the lower half of Scissortail Park, and that was obviously one of the largest projects still remaining. But now we still have senior wellness centers to open in Far South and in Northeast Oklahoma City. And when that's done, MAPS 3 is largely complete. While that has been ramping up, MAPS 4 has been ramping up. And so we hope to break ground on the first major project, which is the State Fair Coliseum, by the end of this calendar year. But we'll see how that goes. But 16 projects are about to roll out in a budget that now totals $1.1 billion. So it's really exciting to be the mayor of a city knowing that you already have this billion-dollar investment in your city's quality of life coming down the pike. And a lot of people in this room, including the chamber itself, supported that passage of MAPS 4 3 years ago. So thank you for that. And that will bring a lot of exciting new change to the city. And every MAPS has always served as a catalyst for lots of many, many times more private development. We also, you've heard a lot about bond issues today. That's the bread and butter of municipal government, at least when it comes to infrastructure. And we passed our last major one in 2017, which put almost $800 million into street resurfacing. You heard some of the previous speakers, 2 square miles, 3 square miles, all that. We're 620 square miles. So it's the size of depending which cities you choose, but I can easily find 10 to 15 American cities you've heard of that could all fit within the city limits of Oklahoma City at the same time. And so it's a very unique challenge that our city leaders gave us in the 1950s and 60s. It would be hard for me to argue that it was a good choice, but it is what it is at this point. It's very hard to undo. And it's why we surround all of these communities on all 4 sides, which is unusual, obviously. And we go far, far, far beyond that. We now go past 195th Street in the north, as one example. So those present that growth, that size, that presents obviously very unique infrastructure challenges. It's the singular explanation for why street conditions typically fall below people's expectations. But this most recent bond issue in 17, and this is a little wonky, and this is getting into the weeds of of street maintenance, but it helps illustrate, what this most recent bond issue has meant to the city. Our average PCI, pavement condition index, for the entire city's profile, all our streets, was 63 a few years ago. And this year it will rise to 70. And 70 is actually a threshold in that world. That is sort of the level where you now are satisfactory, 70 and above. So that's the average. Obviously, that doesn't mean much to you if your street in front of your house is a 40 or whatever. But obviously, we're working in scale here, and the average has risen 7 points, and it's a significant 7 points. So that major investment in 17 has definitely made a difference. And here in 2 or 3 years, we'll have another conversation. We typically do our bond issues about every decade, and so it will be time to talk about it again. I want to talk real quick about transit, because that's definitely, though it's not an issue where our city has yet partnered with any of the cities in this room, it is a really good example of intercity cooperation. A few years ago, 6 cities at the time joined up and created the state's first regional transit authority. This is an actual government. This is provided for in state law. It has taxing authority if it passes the sales tax across the various cities that are included. And now today, there's 3 cities, and they were always kind of the 3 key cities for the idea of commuter rail in our metro, and they are Edmond, Norman, and Oklahoma City. And they're all a part of this, and they're all committed to it. And I think in the next 2 or 3 years, you'll see a plan brought forward that will, I think be very interesting, and definitely something that I think we should pursue as we try to keep ahead of growth. And we try to provide the amenities that we think the future residents will expect. And obviously the first likely major project out of that would be commuter rail, from Edmond to downtown and then downtown to Norman. And it would really change the way that we think of transit in this community. But even in the near term, I would point out that we are just a few feet away from another exciting addition that will impact directly Northwest Oklahoma City, and that is the city's first bus rapid transit line. So bus rapid transit is kind of a term of art in municipal circles around the country, but basically it's describing a bus system that's got a lot of frequency. It's got platforms. It kind of feels like a train in some ways, but because it's not a train, it's obviously a lot cheaper to construct. I think in this sense, what I'm about to describe to you is about as close as we'll ever get to a subway in Oklahoma City. And we're going to have a bus rapid transit line that'll open in about a year that goes from downtown up Classen and up Northwest Expressway all the way to Meridian. And maybe hopefully in the long run it can go farther. But that's how far it'll go initially. And now when you drive down that stretch, if you look closely, you'll see there's some construction and some platforms already being built. But basically, if you live along that route, and we think there's about 40,000 people who are in walkable distance to Classen and Northwest Expressway along that route, you can just walk over to Northwest Expressway or Classen and know that in the next 10 minutes a bus is going to come by. And it's a nice bus, and it's reliable. You don't have to pull out the maps. You don't have to pull out the schedule. That's why I sort of describe it kind of like a subway. It's just a high frequency, high quality experience. And so say if you lived in Belle Isle and you wanted to go to dinner downtown, you just walk over to Northwest Expressway and there it is. There's what we call the Rapid. That's kind of the branded name of it. Just jump on the Rapid and head downtown and have fun and then come back. With all the things that are going on along that stretch, the Oak is one exciting example, the new development across from Penn Square. We think that this is going to be an amenity that really drives interest along that way. MAPS 4 promises to do BRT, bus rapid transit, up northeast and down south, because we think this is going to be a hit and that people will, maybe for the first time in Oklahoma City's history, choose to ride and use transit. Transit has historically in our community sort of been has been a method of last resort, but we think that this will inspire people to use it because it's convenient and fun. Lastly, real quick, I'll talk about in my State of the City address this summer, and if you want like the 50-minute version of this speech, just go online and watch my State of the City address. But we talked about the arena and obviously what Major League professional sports has meant to our city. You know, in American life, whether you like it or not, having a Major League professional sports team is sort of the major differentiator that separates, you know, big cities from everybody else. And it puts you on the radar. And whether you like sports or not, it sort of is the thing that brings your community into the top tier of American cities. And so the Thunder, the NBA have obviously done that for Oklahoma City, and I don't think it's any coincidence that the progress I talk about happened to coincide with the arrival of Major League professional sports. It sends a signal to the world that you're a community that's big enough and have enough corporate presence and enough general wherewithal to host one of the world's greatest brands. And we want to maintain that. It would be a gut punch to imagine the community losing the NBA and having really its first setback in the last 30 years. So to have that sort of relationship, a long-term relationship with Major League professional sports, in a market this size, you have to provide the facility. That's just the way it works. The 15 smallest NBA markets, of the 30 NBA markets, 12 of those 15 are publicly owned and provided by the city or the county or whatever is the relevant government in their case. And that's what we did. Obviously, that's the model we followed initially, and it's the model we're going to have to continue to follow. Well, as I said this summer, you know, not a lot of people were necessarily paying attention, but the Thunder's lease is about to expire. It was going to expire a year from now. They have now agreed to 3 more years so that we can have this conversation. But we and they both want a long-term relationship, but we got to do our part. And we have the smallest arena in the league by square footage, the second cheapest arena, and believe it or not, is 20 years old. And the oldest arena in the NBA, other than Madison Square Garden, which is sort of an outlier, the oldest other NBA arena is 30 years old. And it'll take the better part of a decade, you know, for us to complete whatever it is we're going to do next. So we definitely have to have that conversation if we want to have a long-term relationship with Major League professional sports. And the point of bringing it up this summer was just so everybody's sort of in the loop. I didn't necessarily think it was appropriate or logical for us to just drop a whole baked plan on you at some point without you even knowing that that discussion was happening. The discussion is now happening. You now know about it. And really the next step is sometime, I think, in 2023, we'll have something to present that I think will be reasonable, in line with what other communities do, and most importantly, will secure our long-term relationship with Major League professional sports, which, again, I just think is very vital. I liked when I had that discussion this summer, there were like the sports animal guys in the morning. One of them said that if you don't want to do whatever it takes to keep the Thunder, you must like bad pasta, because we're just going to go back to the only thing to do in town was to eat at Spaghetti Warehouse in Bricktown, you know. And I thought that kind of captured it pretty well, because it really does. The significance of having a Major League professional sports team does extend so far beyond having something fun to do 41 nights a year. It like I said earlier, it really sets a new standard for your community. So we will see where that all leads. But I think it's actually, I like to look at it as an opportunity for our generation to really leave a legacy in this city, not just securing the team, but also hopefully having a facility that we can really be proud of. So we will see how that evolves, but stay tuned on that. There's so many other things we could cover, but as I said initially, it's just a really fun and exciting time in our community, and I recognize we all are a part of that community, whether you technically live in the political jurisdiction or not. We're all in this thing together. We're all living on top of each other in this experiment we call the Greater Oklahoma City metropolitan area. And I am so grateful to be a part and a son of Northwest Oklahoma City. This is my old home, my old stomping grounds, and it's always good to be with you at these occasions. So thank you for this opportunity, to Jill and the board and the whole team, and thank you again, and we'll stay in touch.